It's the morning drive.
Good morning, and welcome to the morning drive. I'm your host, Brooks Fiesinger of BrooksFiesinger.com and MillionaireWho.com, where we help you stabilize your wallet, secure your future, and succeed in entrepreneurship and finance. I'm here with my co-host today, a Hyundai Sonata. All right, let's get on the road. The primary discussion item today is going to be side hustles. I know we brought this up a few times, but I want to get into this. And you might be thinking for a minute, why are we talking side hustles? What is a side hustle? Why are side hustles important? So really, anytime we talk about side hustles, that's a term I hate. I used to hate it, and I still kind of dislike it. This term side hustle, to me, it sounds silly. I still have a negative connotation of hustling based on when I was younger and what people meant by that. And today it means something very, very, very different. But that's what I'm seeing everywhere else. That's what everyone else is using. That's the terminology people are using. So therefore, I keep saying it over and over and over again so that hopefully I become more and more comfortable with that word. Side hustle, side hustle, side hustle. Anyway, I fully agree with what side hustle stands for today, even if the terminology to me sounds silly. Just like about 90% of fashion accessories that my wife tells me about. But anyway, once again, the naming is what it is. But we're talking about side hustles. Why are we talking about side hustles? We're talking about side hustles for several reasons. The first reason is because you cannot rely on a single income. All right? I am a firm believer of that. I do not believe it is responsible or safe to rely on one job or one income. Now, what do I mean by, why would I say that? Well, there's a number of reasons I'll say that. First of all, because, why would you, right? Can you guarantee me with 100% certainty you could never lose your job? No, right? If the economy's good, you're like, hey, look, my job's great. I have no chance of it going away. The minute the economy tanks, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my job, right? I mean, how miserable is it that people are sitting there being like, oh my gosh, I lost my job, what am I gonna do? Some people are going to be like, well, isn't that what unemployment's for? Okay, so you're going to rely on a possible government program that's a major headache, by the way. Like, I don't think people realize how much of a headache it is to be on unemployment. It takes a whole lot of work. And it's work that you're really adding zero value to the world, You're literally just, you're stealing money from other people, taking their money, taking their hard-earned money because you don't have a job. And, does that mean unemployment shouldn't exist? No, I'm not saying that, but it shouldn't have to exist. The only reason unemployment exists is because you think you can get away with one job. And it's silly, right? Can you find me at least 10% of the people you know who have never lost a job? Right? Maybe for 21, you can do that. If you're over the age of 50, can you name me 10% of the people you know that didn't lose a job, right? If that happens to 10% of the people or 5% of the people, how can you guarantee with 100% certainty that you're going to be one of those people that never ever loses your job, that your job is absolutely guaranteed, right? You hear stories all the time about people who are like 50 years old, put in 30 years at a company, and then they get let go, and they're like, what do I do now? My life is like ruined because they have so much identity with their job. They put in so much into their job. And frankly, I would fire you if I can make more money not using you. Right? If I can automate your job, I'm going to fire you. If I can, figure out a cheaper way to get the same thing done, I'm going to fire you. Right? So, let's just get that out there, right? And I deserve to get fired. If my company can do the same thing that I do for cheaper than I can provide it, they should fire me. It's my job to make sure that never happens. It's my job to make sure I'm skilled enough, talented enough, knowledgeable enough that they can never, ever, ever let me go without being worse off. Okay? That's my job. But if that ever doesn't happen, the writing's on the wall, right? Writing's on the wall for me. So, whether you agree with that or not is moot. Really, it doesn't matter if you agree. Because you can tell me all day that you deserve to keep your job no matter how awful you are and no matter how cheap your employer can do it. But that doesn't guarantee that'll never happen. Maybe you sit there and say, my boss is awesome. He would never let me go. My boss will never let me go no matter how bad I do and no matter how close the company is to failing. because my boss is my dad, right? Well, what happens when your dad passes away? What happens when he sells the company? What happens when somebody else is there? You can't guarantee me with 100% certainty that your job can never be touched unless you're like a president of the United States and you're guaranteed some silly income for life, which is a joke, by the way, right? So, you're not guaranteed an income. There's less than like 1 in a million of you guys and that's not a stat, but that's, 1 in a million of you guys is guaranteed your job. And it's probably not you. So if you're not guaranteed your job, then isn't it silly to put all your future, everything important to you, 100% on that job? Right? I mean, that's silly to me, right? That's like someone telling me, there's a 50% chance I'm going to die if I walk to the right, and I walk to the right. I mean, it's such a guarantee. You need to count on not having job security. You've got to be completely confident that you're probably going to lose your job. Completely confident that that sounds a little silly, but what I mean there is you've got to have faith that you can make it even without your job. You need to have a plan that you're not reliant on your job. Now, once again, work hard, take your job. I'm not going to doubt that for a minute, right? I would, I have confidence that you ask anyone at my company if I work hard and they're going to say yes. I like to believe that I put in more time and more effort than 99% of the people there. And I will always look at it that way, right? That's my responsibility. I took that job. It's my responsibility, that job, to, my rule of thumb has always been I need to produce 4 times the amount of money for the company that they pay me. Some people say it should be 10 times, but whatever. At minimum, I need to produce at least 4 times the amount of income for the company that they pay me. Because from my standpoint, why wouldn't you pay me if you can get 4 times the return out of me? To me, that seems pretty clear. That doesn't mean my job's guaranteed, but that's what I do. I make sure that I produce substantially for my company. But that doesn't mean I can just sit on my laurels. It doesn't mean I can just not have a side job. And side jobs do several things. First of all, some job security. I mean, seriously, you have no job security at your job. None, right? Stop pretending like you do. If you do, it's an outdated thought. I mean, so many people think they have job security, and it's silly, right? It's silly. They're like, oh, I work for a big company. You don't have job security. The minute that economy turns, they're going to lay off 10% of their employees. Don't let them be one of you. You don't want to be the one laid off. You say, hey, well, I'm a hard worker. Well, sometimes they lay off the highest paid employees, regardless of how good they are. So what do? Decide you want to minimize your income, put in enough effort to be good, but not enough effort to stand out too much and raise your risk? I mean, some people do that. That's silly. You're going to live not to your potential because you're so paranoid every day of losing your job. Don't be paranoid of losing your job. Go out there and rock it at work. Rock it. Be awesome. But when you're being awesome at work, in addition to being awesome at work, you need to be thinking on the side of what you're doing to make sure you're bringing in income beyond what you're doing at work. And in a best case scenario, that extra income is doing awesome things for you, right? It's letting you retire early. It's letting you save up more stuff. It's helping your family's college funds. It's helping you pay off your mortgage so you have more money. It's helping you, literally have more stuff, or live a better life, or retire sooner, or donate more money to causes that are important to you, or help your kids, or help your family, or help your neighbors. I mean, seriously, there's only positive things that can come about you earning some extra income. And so that's, anytime you're doing that, anytime you've got something in addition to your primary gig, I'm going to call that a side hustle. Now, a lot of people make more money off their side hustle than they do their primary gig, and that's awesome, right? Go make more money off your side gig. I see no problem with that. That's great. Go make more money with your side gig. So, once you decide that you need either security and you can't count on just your only job, once again, if you're president of the United States, you're guaranteed income for life. If you're not president of the United States, you need a side gig. Even if you're president of the United States, I love this country, but there's no guarantee this country's going to be around forever, and no country ever has. So at some point, your presidential guarantee may dry up. Now, I don't see that happening in the next 100 years, but once again, you never know what happens. So once you decide that you want a side hustle or more, because I ultimately think you probably want more than one, but you got to start somewhere. You got to start with a side hustle. you got to decide on what are you really trying to do. Side hustles can go in so many different directions. You probably have somebody on Facebook right now who says, oh, my side hustle is selling, pills that help you lose weight, or my side hustle is selling a juicer. Yeah, those are side hustles. But there's other people who have side hustles. It's like, hey, I run a $500 million corporation, right? I mean, seriously, you can do either way. You've got things that are called lifestyle, and you've got things that are called growth. And lifestyle is essentially another job. It's something you do day in and day out that you enjoy doing, and you get paid for doing it. Those type of ventures generally produce less money, but they're easier a lot of times. And you can kind of get a direct response for your efforts. And the cool thing about them is sometimes there's kind of like a second job that's completely in your control, which means unlike your main job where your boss can let you go tomorrow if they want to, your lifestyle side hustle, once again, you lose your job, you step it up a little more, you make some extra money, you have some control over the income, you have a lot of control over your income, but realistically, you're getting paid for the effort that you put in. And many lifestyle side hustles might only make a few $1,000s a year. Some lifestyle side hustles could make, frankly, you can make up to a few $1 million a year. If you want to make, large amounts of money, then you typically don't want to go lifestyle, and you want to go what we call growth. And a growth is typically you put in more up front than you get, but over time it starts to grow and take over a life of its own. Which can be kind of cool because then you're doing more directing and less, pay for work. So once again, lifestyle side hustle is something where you are getting paid for the exact work you're doing, say freelance photography, freelance writing, web development, graphic design, this kind of stuff. Like you have control over the business, but really you're just getting paid for your efforts. A growth business then once again is Facebook. It's hey, I'm going to put in a ton of time and effort up front, and I'm going to invest a lot in up front, and I'm going to get very little or zero returns for a long time, but once it starts taking off, then I start seeing that stock hockey stick approach where it starts growing and potentially making me very, very, very wealthy. So that's kind of the growth model. So you really have to decide which one of those you're trying to do. And a large part of it depends on what your goals are and what your needs are. I tend to like the idea of you have your main job, then you create a lifestyle business, then you create a growth business, because a growth can present huge opportunities for you long term. That's when you can start building a big asset pool. You can start building a machine that turns out money for you instead of you having to, tie direct effort for it. But I think a lot of times it's better to get started with a lifestyle business. It's easier to get started with a lifestyle business. You can do something you're passionate about and get paid for it, so it might not seem so painful. And you're going to learn so much because you can read all the books that you want. You can go get all the degrees what you want, and still you're going to have to jump in there and do it a little bit in order to really get good at it and understand what you're doing. There's so many little nuances of businesses, and people are always asking me, how do I get started? I'm like, just go do it. We talked about that a month or two ago. It was just do it. Just go out and do it. You're gonna mess up, but you're better off messing up than you are not doing it. And that's kind of the important point is, go do it, go mess up. You're gonna be richer and happier messing up than you are sitting back and saying, I don't know what to do, I'm not going to do it. So you got to go out there and do it. And so you sit here and say, okay, what is my primary goal? My goal is, say, for example, I don't want to be crying in the streets and my family starving to death and be relying on other people if I lose my job. Okay, so you pick up a lifestyle business. Great first start. You're going to figure out something that's kind of passionate about, and you're going to start doing it. And we've talked about these ideas in the past. It could be everything as simple as selling stuff on eBay, or as complex or as simple as like signing up for a multi-level marketing company. It can be selling books. It can be a whole bunch of different things. Or you can go buy things from China and resell them in the United States, or you can go do web development, or you can do photography. There's so many things you can do as a lifestyle business to make some extra money, and I urge you to do that. And frankly, you can turn lifestyle businesses into growth businesses, but typically you then end up having this quasi-growth, quasi-lifestyle business, which is certainly fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Some people will tell you there is something wrong with it, but I don't think you have to try to maximize money. I don't think that's your job. We all have different interests in life, and I don't believe businesses have to maximize profit. You know, there's so many awesome companies out there which don't at all try to maximize profit. I mean, one of the best examples I can think of is New Belgium Brewery out in Colorado. You can't tell me for a minute that maximizing profitability is even like on their top 10 list. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to maximize profitability. There's no reason you have to or should do that. So, you know, you can get this quasi situation where you started your own lifestyle business and you grow it to the point where you're hiring other people, you have other people managing day-to-day things, or you can create systems that automate parts of your job so that you end up getting a higher ROI than just trading time for money. And that's certainly fine, and that's good. You can do that. Now, if you decide not to do what we're calling a lifestyle business, and you decide you really want to do a growth business, I got some warnings for you, right? This sounds so sexy. It sounds so cool. Like, hey, I'm going to do a growth business. I'm going to make billions. I'm going to be so rich. And you know what? Odds are you're going to fail. You're going to flop. It's going to take you 10 times longer to do it. We talked about Grant Cardone's 10X rule a few weeks ago. You know, literally, you're going to spend 10 times the money, 10 times the time, and put in 10 times the effort to see the results that you want. So my point is, you go into a growth business, it could be 10 years before you see a return. It could be 5 years. That can be painful time. A lot of people quit. When I first launched MillionaireWho, it was more than 10 years ago, and I don't want to say I quit, but I definitely died off for a while. So, you know, the kicker is you can't die off. You can't quit. And you're tempted to for lifestyle or for growth businesses. There's some other challenges though. One of the big ones is money. And you probably hear all the time the fallacy, right? It's a joke where people are like, you don't need money to be successful. You know, there's so many ways you get money. You can get money from other people. You can start it for nothing. And is there truth to that? Yeah, but my gosh, is it hard to start a business without money? I mean, seriously, it's so freaking hard to start a business without money that I don't know how you're going to do it. Like, the best way to do it is to start something tiny to generate the money to then start something big. If you want to go start a $400 million company, how the heck are you going to do it? Seriously, how the heck are you going to do it? Now, I worked in incubator centers. I have, judged business plan competitions. I've competed in business plan competitions. And do some businesses get a $400 million investment? Yes. And you know what? They give up everything. They give up their souls. They give up their lives. They give up everything for somebody else to get every penny they earn. And I've heard the statement, I'd rather have 1% of 400 million than 100% of nothing. And I agree. But I also tell you right now that it's really hard to put in your all to get jack, right? To have no control, to get no returns from it. And I'm not telling you not to do that, but on top of all that, you've got to have a freaking slam dunk. Like, it's literally got to be a slam dunk. You're not going to get that kind of investment if it's a pretty good business idea. It has got to be an amazing. And I see like 1,000 viable businesses for the one that gets funded. And that's kind of the kicker. Realistically, you need to get yourself rolling. And once you get rolling, then you can talk to people about funding, because then you have a little bit of leverage. Think about Shark Tank, right? The businesses that get funded on Shark Tank, and if you haven't seen Shark Tank, I urge you to check it out. The businesses that get funded on Shark Tank aren't somebody saying, I've got an idea. They're people that are saying, I've got a running business and I've got $1 million in sales and I need some more money to take it to the next level. That's the kind of business that gets funded in Shark Tank. So if you're not to that point, don't even waste your time trying to get funded. You're going to have to get your money from your friends. You're going to have to get your money from your family. You're going to have to get your money from taking it from yourself, right? You got to get it from your savings, your accounts, your house, that sort of thing. And that's where things get challenging. When I was in Syracuse, New York, I headed up this program called YES. And YES stood for Youth Entrepreneurs of Syracuse. So what is a youth entrepreneur? That was one of the things that I challenged and asked my professor at the time. His name was Morris. And I asked him, I said, what is a youth entrepreneur? And he told me it was, I think, 40 or 42. I mean, it was in the 40s. And to me, at the time, I'm in my 20s, and I'm thinking like 40s is a youth entrepreneur. That's insane, but it is, right? The kicker the thing that we have a hard time admitting is the vast majority of businesses get started by people in their 40s and 50s. So if you are in your, teens, your 20s, or your 30s, things are stacked against you. Most people don't start businesses because they don't have anything. You don't have any assets. You don't have any cash. You don't have any savings. You've got families. You've got time constraints. You don't have enough knowledge. You've got to learn a lot more. And the big thing is, once again, you don't have that money. And where are you going to get it from? You get it from a bank. You know what banks lend to? Banks lend money to people who have money, right? If you have so much money you don't need any, then a bank will lend to you. If you don't have any money, a bank won't lend to you. Right? You got to think about best case scenario, you got to do about 20% down. Now, some people are going to sit there and say, but aren't there exceptions? There's always exceptions, right? And go out there and find those exceptions. Go do it. I've done a 0% down deal. I've done some things where I've been able to start a business without money or with very little money. You can do it. They exist. But the problem is we see it happening like once and say, oh, anybody can do it. Anyone can win the lottery. But that doesn't mean you should go play the lottery. You can do it. But that doesn't mean it's likely. And I will tell you with 100% certainty that when you start getting a little bit of money saved up, it becomes so much easier to run a business. Just incredible how much easier it is. Like, I would never want to try bootstrapping another company again with nothing like I did when I was younger. I mean, it is miserable. Your odds of success are so close to zero, and it takes so much sweat equity, which means your time and effort. And you can't even put the money in to do little things that you need to do. It is, your chance of success is thin. Now, I'm not saying this to, lower your self-esteem and make you feel like it's failure. If you can figure out how to do it, do it. But also don't get discouraged because you can't figure out how, because it's freaking hard. So instead, go work an extra side job. Go start this a side hustle, like a lifestyle business, right? Either a lifestyle business or a second job, and start earning that extra cash and save it, right? Put it in cash and stocks and mutual funds and CD. Save that money until you have enough to go do something. And it might not take that much. I think when you've got $10,000, you've got enough to run something. $5,000 is enough to do something. You can do a whole lot with just a few hundred or a few $1,000s, but it's really near impossible to do it with zero. So some of the other problems you run with the banks is, it's pretty near impossible to get a loan for under $500,000. And the problem is, if you're just starting out or you're early on, $500,000 is a lot of money. The idea of having $500,000 is probably crazy to you. And yet, I buy a $300,000 property and I can't get a bank to talk because, so many of the banks will only deal with $500,000 properties or $1 million or $1.5 million properties. Like, literally, if you're talking about a few $100,000, you're too small for most banks. And that's one of the painful things about this country and this time that we live in, is that there's really very little support for people getting started, for small businesses. Now, there's some awesome incubators out there, and there's something called the SBA, Small Business Administration. But even the SBA, they don't help you if you're small. I mean, really, I was so disappointed with the level of support you get in a small business by the SBA. I mean, even there, they're looking for what most people consider big businesses, 50 to 100 employee companies. That's who the SBA is spending a lot of time with. And most people out there don't consider somebody with 50 or 100 companies a small business, but the government does. And that's actually what we're typically talking about when we talk about small business administration. So, you're up against the wall here, I want you to realize a bank doesn't want to talk to you about $200,000. A bank doesn't want to talk to you about $300,000, and that stinks. I feel for you. I really do feel for you. I've had a hard time getting past that. It's sad, but I like to just admit the realities instead of pretending like a fake world exists, right? I want to pretend like, I don't want to say it's impossible for you to go get a loan for $250,000. You clearly can. You got one on your house, right? But most of the banking offers and most of the banks that want to play, they don't want to deal with that. They're going to push you in a minimum of an SBA loan, or best case scenario, probably an SBA loan. The cool news is you can get like 10 or 15% down, but then you're paying massive amount of fees. I mean, we got hammered on our SBA loan, and I don't want to hammer the SBA program. I think the SBA program is generally good, and I think it's nice. But the problem is it's not what most people are going to think it is. People are going to go out there thinking that, this SBA loan is the answer, and really it's not. If you want to be successful, you got to get past those SBA programs. You got to get to the point where you're talking about $500,000, $1 million, and $1.5 million or more, 5 million, 10 million. The problem is, how do you get from being somebody with a few bucks in your pocket to somebody who's talking about doing $1.5 million deals? And that is the challenge, right? And that's the frustrating thing. And that's where side hustles are fantastic. You got your primary income coming in. You're not depending on that secondary income stream. You can invest the time and effort. You can, have two side hustles. One of them is going to be a lifestyle business. Then you're going to get into your growth business, and you're focusing on those growth entities, and you're putting in your all, getting nothing in return. You're putting in 80 hours a week and seeing nothing for 5 years, and then all of a sudden, boom, it starts working. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about these growth things. Now, how do you get kind of a head start? How do you get to the point where you can start making some extra money? Or start getting money from banks and start working with them. And a big thing is partnering with other people. And, if you need to do a $500,000 deal, can you get with 3 or 4 other people so you can do that? Very possibly. And that's where, you'll find a lot of power in partnering. So partners are awesome because they can allow you to pool your resources, and all of a sudden you can start doing deals that you can't do on your own. And a whole lot of people get their start with partnerships, which means they're working with somebody else or a group of other people in order to get rolling. Partnership's a fantastic thing to do, right? So go try a partnership. Now, what's the drawback of partnership? Well, there's some big drawbacks. One of them is if you work with someone stupid, you're going to be screwed. You're going to lose every penny you have. So how do you make sure you don't work with somebody stupid? Well, you better do your due diligence. You better figure out who they are. You better make sure who they are. So many people I know go ask their buddy to start a business with them. Like, how stupid can you be? You're going to go ask your buddy. You don't even trust them to borrow your iron. Like, I'm not going to trust them to buy an iron, and they're not going to pay for their beer. But, I'm going to trust them with my big business startup. Like, come on, get real. Go out there and find real people like you who are starting businesses, who know what they're doing. And if you can go get with somebody with a little bit of success and a little bit of money behind their belt, fantastic. That's even better, right? Why just settle for some little kid that you happen to know because it's easy? Stop going the easy route. You're lazy. Stop being lazy, right? Go out there and go talk to somebody. Go call somebody up. Go to meetings and meet some other people. Go to networking events. Go find that person who is successful. Go find the person that has money. Go find the person that's in the industry you want to be in and partner with them, work with them, right? So many of the most successful people in the world, when you do a little research on them, you find out what they did is they went out and found someone successful and they partnered with them, sometimes for nothing, right? Sometimes they got nothing up front, but they made those connections. They ended up finding their opportunity to make their money. And that's what we're talking about here when we're talking about partners. You got to go out there and be smart with your partners. And as you add partners, you're adding risk, right? There's no question about it. You're adding massive risk. But sometimes you got to take on some risk in order to get to those thresholds where you can actually get the money that it takes to do what you need to do. And so, partnering can be great, but you better be careful. Once again, the vast majority of people that I know that start a business, they realize they don't have the money. And so what do? They go find their friend, and they're going to ask their friend, who once again they don't even trust, to cover their meal at a restaurant. And yet what do they do with that friend? They decide to go into business with them. It kind of goes back to that question I had from one of the listeners who said, what do I do when I can't find my owners? Seriously, you can't find your owners? Why did you choose an owner that's going to go AWOL and you can't find? That is ridiculous. So don't do that, right? Be very careful with your partners. Benefit, you can get more money, you can pull it together, you can start a bigger business. That's awesome. Benefit, you've got some people to help carry heavy lifting. Awesome. Benefit, you got a whole bunch of expertise that you can tap into. Awesome. Negative, you better be smart, you better be careful, right? It's almost like, think of it lending money. You're going to do a lot of background before you lend somebody money. You're essentially lending somebody money. You're lending them your ideas, your time, and your money, and in exchange that they're going to help carry their weight as well. So you better be careful, because if they're not going to carry their weight, you're going to be in trouble. So don't put yourself in that situation, right? But once again, partnerships are a great way to go. So, we kind of talked today about, the importance of creating a side hustle. And ultimately, I think you need more than one side hustle, but start somewhere, right? And a lifestyle is a great place to start. Stick with something you're passionate about. Get out there rolling in your passion and get involved with your passion and start monetizing your passion. Some people want to do things like start blogs or start YouTube channels. That's fine if you love it, but those aren't great business opportunities. Odds of making money in those areas are very thin. Focus on something that you can actually make some real money, which typically is going to involve selling something or providing some sort of service for fee. And then I urge you to look into growth opportunities. And growth opportunities are going to take a whole lot of upfront time, a whole lot of upfront effort. But once you get rolling with those, then eventually you're going to start generating the potential to make some big money long term. And the cool thing is that if you feel overworked and overwhelmed, you're going to have to keep that up, right? You got to make that comfortable, and you've got to be overworked, and you've got to be overwhelmed. But those growth businesses start to roll, and when they start rolling, then all of a sudden you start seeing money come in, despite you not having to put in as much effort as it took. And some great, basic growth businesses are things like real estate, and you can get into real estate. But then you can also get into things like actually creating more of a traditional business. It could be a retail location. It could be an online business. It could be just a whole bunch of different things. And, I'm involved with a number of growth businesses. I try to avoid most of the lifestyle businesses nowadays, but I've done a bunch of them in the past, and I needed those businesses in the past to get rolling. I needed those lifestyle businesses in order to get the cash up front, in order to invest into the growth businesses and get those to start rolling. But once those growth businesses start rolling, then once again you start getting cash flow from those, and that's a pretty cool feeling. So once again, hopefully you took something away from there with the side hustles. I also want to do a plug. Jalen and the Party Boy, I helped fund their video. They did a remix of Energy with cool lyrics and a nice video. So I'll certainly link to that at the end of this video. But I just wanted to throw that out there because that's one of the cool things you can do. I don't know if I won't call that a side hustle because I don't expect any return on it. But it's just a really cool project, and I was really excited to be part of it. So definitely go check out Jalen and the Party Boys' Energy remix or mix. And once again, hopefully you took something out of today's conversation about side hustles. So go out there and make the impossible happen.
It's the morning drive.